This was the start, and what a start. Look at the man in black on the Ryan Saxelby bike. Little Taz Taylor just ejects from the front pole and pounces into Redgate ahead of the two distinctive orange redline KTMs. Well, there's an accident as we go. There's one rider goes down. I didn't see who it was who first slipped, but the man who really suffered was number 52, Joel Bourboum, who got taken out well and truly. Meanwhile, battles going on down the field as the Spaniard Danny Sayers is fighting in there. But look at this, the leader goes down. It's down and out for Scott Derue, and then moments later, so too does the Spaniard Dyer. So suddenly, two of the front four go down, and these guys are now fighting for that rostrum place. It's number 2, Joe Thomas from Pencourt, the Welshman boy who's in the lead, while Georgina played that battle, while Georgina Bolden fights with Ed Rendell. And then this battle goes on at the front between Bradley Ray, number 28, and number 6, Taz Taylor. On the last lap, the Ryan Saxelby bike grabs the advantage, but look at the way that Bradley Ray dodges back out of the slipstream and grabs the lead back and wins it by moments, just like that, and then looks down at the red line KTM as if to say, what was wrong with that? Number 1, Ed Rendell, the reigning 125 champ, takes third place ahead of Georgina Bolden, but it's yet another victory here at Donington Park for Bradley Ray. Taz Taylor on pole position after his fastest lap in race 1 yesterday in the Hell Performance British Motostar Championship, and the little man from Mansfield rockets to the front ahead of the Bradley Ray on the red line KTM, whose teammate Scott Derue slots into 5th place, and Derue quickly moves through to 4th place on the second red line KTM, and then passes that very rapid young woman, Georgina Bolden, on bag number 27, the Ryan Saxelby machine. He then launches an assault on Bradley Ray, who's through into 2nd place. But then look at this, poor Georgina Bolden running a splendid form, has a massive front end slide as she goes down in the crane, and unfortunately the young woman escapes unscathed, but she's out of the race, and these three now have an enormous, absolute terrific cut and thrust on their hands. The redline KTMs go each side of Taz Taylor at the Melbourne Loop. He cuts back inside one of them and then bravely tries to make his way inside Brad Ray as they go down through Hollywood and Craner curves, and the little fella's back to the front. So Taz Taylor retakes the lead on the Ryan Saxelby KTM. The redline KTMs are right behind him, and then on the final lap, Taz leaves his braking too late down into the foggy S's. Scott Derue dances through on the redline KTM as Taz Taylor retakes the track. It's a win for Scott Derue, his first time at Donington ahead of his teammate Bradley Ray. A great start by Jossie Elliott from the centre of the front row of the grid. He launches himself to the front, but quickly loses the lead as a massive pile up occurs down Craners. Tom Tunstall, an unfortunate victim of that. Number 2, Adam Jenkinson is at the front. Right alongside him, Jossie Elliott on the Morello Racing Kawasaki, but the Yamaha fends him off as they drop down the hill into the foggy S's. Elliott does grab the lead, but loses it down the hill into the old hairpin, and at this point Adam Jenkinson has the advantage as Alistair Seeley on the Tyco BMW manages a pass round the outside into Redgate to move into 2nd place. And in fact the two Ulstermen then have a proper scrap for 2nd place, with the 20-year-old Elliott, the man at the front, as a massive moment hinders Adam Jenkinson, drops him back to 4th place, a moment from which he is not able to recover. Now it's the front 3 who are fencing as Hudson Kennett moves to the front, chops across the bows of Alistair Seeley, brake checks him at the Melbourne hairpin. And here is Seeley round the outside, a beautiful move on Hudson Kennett. He retakes the lead, and this battle between the two BMWs is obviously set to go right to the wire. And then a moment for Seeley, gets it wrong coming out of the Melbourne hairpin. Elliott gets alongside him. Kennett can escape, but it's Elliott who has the advantage as they drop through Goddard's. He does run a little bit wide, but he pins the Kawasaki to hang on to 2nd place, while ahead of him, Hudson Kennett is back. The former champion wins it. the start, brilliant start, perfect start really by Mason Law. Got himself enough gap to actually move over and then take the wide sweeping entrance into Redgate. Ben Curry behind him, and Joe Francis from the third place on the grid is third as they go through. But there's all sorts of things start to happen, and as they exit the second of the turns, there's a mishap straight away. Two riders go out to the left-hand side, Jordan Weaving and Tommy Philp, and two more riders manage to collect themselves down Craner curves, fortunately without injury, but with considerable injury to the motorcycles. The pace car comes out for a couple of laps. That obviously frustrates Andy Irwin, who's had to start 40th from the pit lane. Mason Law in the lead, Ben Curry snaps his way back on the brakes into second place. But then we have another faller, and one of many, because in the end we would end up with 23 riders on the track. That was Chrissy Rouse off the Haribo Star Mix Triumph. 23 riders complete the race. That's Dan Murphy wiping out one of his new opposition, arriving from Front to Sport. 23 riders then finish the race, but the fastest of them all is this lad, 19-year-old Mason Law from Benfleet, takes his maiden victory in the Championship Series on the NMT No Limits Kawasaki. Ben Curry in second place, but a start-to-finish win for Mason Law.
Well, the Santander Consumer Finance KTM British Junior Cup was an outstanding success for the debutants as they came here to Donington Park. Yesterday's race was won by the guy in the black crash helmet, Dennis Stelzer, but he was relegated to third as they went round Redgate for the first time. But nip and tuck, it was all the way. The number 42, who was James Hobson, who was so desperate for a win yesterday, threw it away at the Melbourne Loop, made no mistake this time and fought hard all the way through the race. The KTM boys giving huge entertainment and promising so much more to come. But Stelzer knew that if he kept the hammer down, despite lunges from James Nagy, the number 12 rider, he could walk away from Donington Park with a double, and that is exactly what he did. But he had to fend off some serious attacking. At one point they were four abreast going down into the Melbourne hairpin, and we thought it might all end in tears at this point. But they all kept it all together, but the spectacle of the race was to come as they went over the line. When Stelzer rounded the Melbourne hairpin for the last time and headed for the line, it was James Nagy, number 12, who reached across, touched his mate, almost crashed. Sensational, good from the KTM juniors. It was a cracking start again by the Virtuals. Roger Lovelock Akialto did not make the most of their opportunity. In fact, they slipped further down the order. Once they'd gone round Redgate, it all went to pieces. Ricky Stevens and Ryan Charwood on the B-Wise and Kawasaki were very soon up the inside at Hollywood. Streaming away after that, Lovelock going backwards. Ben Holland and Lee Watson were fighting off a challenge from Tim Reeves and Greg Clues, who was making his way up from further down the grid. He very soon dispatched Holland and Watson and then set about the race leaders. The rivalry between Virtual and Tim Reeves does not need amplifying. Meanwhile, Reeves had a bit of a time getting past the B-Wiser Kawasaki pair of Stevens and Charwood. Eventually, his experience paid off, but just look at the move Stevens made when he came back on the inside of the reigning world champion. Cheeky or what? Brilliant, brilliant. But once by again, Tim Reeves then kept the tight line of Goddard's. There was no way anyone else was going to go through. Reigning British champion Sean Hannity and James Lee went out of the running with yet another mechanical problem, leaving the coast clear for those behind them to claim more points. At the front though, the victory was almost 5 seconds behind Reeves. The Virtual brothers then clear ahead. Reeves second, Stevens and Charwood third.